Hello everyone, I'm bringing another unboxing video today, and what we're looking at here are some more recently arrived Dutch bits and pieces. There's some uniform, some small kit and some bits which were a surprise to me, but Kevin Mills, my friend in the Netherlands, has put this lot together for me and included some bits and pieces I'm not yet aware of, so it'll be interesting to see what's arrived in that regard. I am aware of some of the bits and pieces, some of these bits and pieces have been sort of picked up at my request, but I'm not aware of everything that's been sent. So hopefully there'll be some interesting bits and pieces in there. I know that some of these bits and pieces are quite interesting and obviously will be appearing on the channel going forward in specific videos. So without further ado, we'll get into the main part of the video and have a look at what's arrived.
So here it is. I've decided to term this video the Dutch Mega Unboxing. You can probably see why here. There's quite a bit to go at, quite a bit to have a look at. There's some items immediately apparent on the top here, but plenty to dig through. Thank you very much to Kevin, again, for sending this over. Some of these items I've purchased, some of them are gifted, so there are some surprises in here that I'm not sure of what they are. But Kevin did say there would be some bits and pieces that would be surprises. So we'll have a look now. I'll move this to one side where I can easily dig the bits and pieces out, and we'll have a look at all these bits and pieces individually. I'll just pause here and drop the camera down a little bit so we can look more closely at these items. So the first thing to look at here is a respirator or gas mask bag, and this is an Air Force gas mask bag. It does basically follow the Army pattern, but is in blue-grey, as you can see. Has provision for the carriage of the NBC items as well. This should have two straps in blue-grey on the back. There's one here. Kevin couldn't find a replacement for the lower one, so there's a green strap attached here, which he's provided. Mentioned that in messages, so thank you very much for that, Kevin. Hopefully I'll find a blue strap to replace this green one at some point. That's a nice addition to the Air Force, the Dutch Air Force equipment that I have. Gas mask bag there. Another bit of Air Force equipment here, or another few pieces of Air Force equipment to have a look at together. We have some braces here, as you can see, for supporting the equipment. So we have a couple of those there in blue-grey. I do have some of these already, but nice to have some more. Nice clear stamp on the back of one of these at least, 1955 there, as you can see. And then we also have a blue-grey entrenching tool carrier cover, 1957 dated. So this carries the sort of basically a copy of the German entrenching tool, Second World German entrenching tool, maybe carried in here. It's a Air Force version of the Army carrier. The only difference being that the webbing components are in blue-grey rather than green, as you can see there. Next we have a Dutch ground sheet cape. So this is patterned after the British example, so it could be buttoned up and worn as a cape or used as a ground sheet. In British service, of course, it is the Mark 7 ground sheet. But, we have that there in green. So I do have one of these, but it's very, very stiff. So this is nice and supple and can be used as, obviously, it's part of the haversack contents. So it can be rolled up and carried under the flap of the haversack. A towel. And this fits in with several items which are arriving in this. Kevin's very kindly helped me find various personal items, so wash kit items and so forth, which I was very keen to pick up. It's one of the areas I particularly like collecting and putting together sets of personal items, wash kit and that sort of thing. So towel to go with that. Again, part of the haversack contents, of course. A pair of socks, fairly modern socks, but suitable for wear with the combat boots. These have an orange edge around the top there. I'm not sure if that's to do with sizing. A pair of the Dutch issue socks there. Another Air Force cross strap or brace. This again, actually has an ink stamp on the back, but this is with the brass ends to it rather than the blackened brass. So they're shiny brass ends rather than blackened brass ends to it. I think I have one of these already with the non-blackened ends, so that just allows for different sort of eras of web equipment to be put together. A very useful thing to have, the Handbook voor de Soldaat. Absolutely pronouncing that appallingly, I'm sure, but this is the 1970 version of the Soldier's Handbook, which, even if you can't speak Dutch, there's lots of illustrations and so forth, which are very useful, some interesting cartoons as well. And I have a later version of one of these, I think from 1990, so it's nice to have an earlier version, which covers a lot of the details of the time. See, the photographs and so forth are a bit more applicable to earlier Dutch operations and so forth, the kit that was used, and so on. So a very useful thing to have. Thank you for that, Kevin. A couple of map related items here. One is a leather map case, which you can see here, provision for carrying pens and so forth, and rule and various other implements at the top there. Have the NATO stock number in an ink stamp there, with an ink stamp there, and we have at the top here, it's actually Mark Stinger Charlie Team 327 Squadron, interestingly. So if anyone can give further information on the significance of that, I'd be interested to know. But a leather map case there. And then we also have here, now I forget what this type of tool is called, or instrument, I guess you could say. But this is a map reading instrument to assist with that. So have that there. I say I forget what these are called off the top of my head, but we have, oh, there we are. We have the Dutch designation there on the back. So again, relatively modern, but a nice element of that kit there. What else do we have in here? So we have some Dutch Air Force clothing, and these are heavyweight trousers. And we have a look in here in blue-grey, as you can see. Have a look in here. Do we have a label? We do. So we've got KLU there, which is of course the Air Forces, the size and the date of 1967 there. So some Air Force blue-grey trousers there, as you can see. Velcro fastener at the waist, interestingly, or Velcro adjustment rather. They do appear to close at the front with Velcro as well, touch and close. See that there? So interesting to note. And to go with those, I think there is also a couple of other items here actually. We have a cold weather and a summer cap. This is interestingly quite close to the US hot weather cap, Vietnam War, the first pattern of Vietnam War hot weather cap, which is basically a baseball cap, of course. And you can see here, this is 70s dated. KLU again. Mesh in the front there to keep that somewhat rigid. And then a cold weather cap as well. You can see here, again in the blue-grey, with obviously air flaps, with a faux pile lining there. And again, we have a label inside. So this is dated 1969. And again, it's padded and quilted in there for warmth. So a summer and a winter Air Force cap there. And underneath those, let's get this out of here, another Air Force item. You have here the smock, or I don't know if it's referred to as a smock, hooded garment, quite heavyweight again, the name tape there, but again the Air Force, presumably the equivalent of the jacket that goes with the trousers we've already seen. You have a draw cord for hood there, as you can see. We do have a label in the neck here, and you can see this is dated 1968, and again marked KLU. So I'll be interested to find out more about these. I know later the Dutch Air Force did have a grey-green combat uniform, which I'm quite interested to find examples of. Shirt, parka and trousers, I believe. I say I'd be quite interested to find examples of those as well. But this, I say, predates that, I believe. I think the grey-green uniform is a later 70s or 80s thing. Interesting to see these blue-grey garments with the 60s dates. So we have those there. Next, we have gloves. We have both outer gloves and inner gloves. So these are just the normal wool 3-cell mitts or gloves, you can see there. And then as outerwear, you have these leather palmed 3-finger mitts as well, which obviously have a strap to draw in around the wrist and so forth. They're then elasticated further up the arm, which gives you both the insulating layer and then a windproof layer as well. And again, these are to be carried in the haversack, I believe, certainly during the winter months. So nice to have those there. A bit of fluff come out with those. Getting close to looking at the elements of small kit, there's a couple of other items to look at first of all. We have a trouser belt here, a soldier's trouser belt, which is patterned after US practice basically, with the sliding pin buckle there, as you can see. It can be adjusted in and attached on at that end, and then you just have a crimped metal tip on the other end. And this appears to be made of the same sort of faux, the man-made material as the later webbing components are made from. So trouser belt there, useful thing to have, part of the combat uniform, of course. A water bottle or canteen here, which I was very keen to get hold of. This is a 70s dated example of the plastic water bottle or canteen, 79. I was keen to get a 70s dated example of one of these. I think the example I have is 80s dated, late 80s dated. So it's nice to have a 70s version. Again, with a cup here, as you can see, WBG and the date there, 1960. So nice to have that. Another thing to fill out the canteen covers I have a canteen cover missing a bottle basically, so that fills in for that. It's nice to have a 70s dated one, as I say. Another element of individual kit, individual issue kit, which I wanted to get hold of was the boot cleaning kit. And it's not hard to find this style of kit, but it's harder to find them with the properly marked brushes. And as you can see, these are marked KL for the army use. And more modern ones, I believe, don't have that or have the later marking. So nice to have. These brushes are unmarked, the wooden handled ones, I believe. I don't think the polish off brushes. Oh no, it is. That is marked KL, as you can see. Made in Holland, pure bristles, manufacturer of Vero, so that's nice to have. So polish on, polish off. This is the sort of initial cleaning brush, I believe, for getting the mud off and scraping out the mud and everything before you actually polish them. And then inside here we have two black polish tins. I do have a brown one as well, so but nice to have. Velcro compartment there for the two tins of polish, and then a Velcro strap which passes around here. Doesn't appear to be any marking in the actual pouch itself, but just a nylon duck pouch with these Velcro closures to keep that closed. So we have that there. And then we have a smaller box within the main box, and I'll bring this over and pull bits out of here bit by bit. So in the top of here we have some, I think we've got a couple of handkerchiefs there, a few handkerchiefs, useful things to have again. Part of the personal items, of course. We have a couple of holdalls or wash rolls here. If I spread these out, very similar to the British design, of course, and Commonwealth design, but made in green, as we have here. So basically a copy of Second War and earlier British practice, used for carrying wash kit items and other bits and pieces. So we have those there. Put those bits to one side. Right, we have some interesting bits and pieces in here. Are these all related? Anything else? Oh, glasses case as well. So what we have here are cases for the spectacles for the respirator, and these actually have a Canadian NATO stock number there, 21. I think 20 and 21 were both Canadian, and the national code for Canada, 20 and 21. I have another one here. This might have the spectacles inside. I'm going to open it up. Oh, that's tough. Just 1 minute to damage anything. There we go. So we have the foams died a death, but we have the spectacles in here. No glass in the frames, but these have the rubber pieces to go down the side of the head, and these hook round the ears, and this means you can wear these underneath the respirator, is the idea, of course, and you can clip the lenses into these looking at them. See that there? These clip together. And these are for use with the C3, I would assume, being that they're in Canadian cases. They'd certainly work with the C3. And then here we have in the packet, you can see the details there on the packet. We actually have the spectacles, presumably from this case, or that would go with this empty case, in a paper packet there. We have another set of glasses here, I think. Yep, in a case. So we have these sort of more standard design of spectacles, but they do nevertheless have quite flat frames at the side. I assume these are issue spectacles, again with the flexible ear hooks there, rather than just sitting on top of the ear. These hook right round the ear. Quite light glasses with these, actually. They're very secure on the face. British respirator spectacles have sprung metal hooks that go right around the back of the ear. And I assume this is details of the prescription in here. So I assume these are issue spectacles as well. That's quite interesting. I'll have to ask Kevin about that. These are the bits I wasn't aware were coming, so very nice to have. We'll put all those to one side and have a look at some of the other bits in here. So some more green bits and pieces here. These are two sewing kits, I believe. Got some spare buttons popping out of there, but you can see that this one actually has a name written into it. Holverder. So you carry spare buttons, wool, thread for repairing uniforms, reattaching buttons and so forth. So we have two of those there. I'm losing buttons here. Pop that back in back inside this one here. We have a dressing. You can see that here, medical dressing. An individual field dressing. Dressing, first aid, individual. Khaki sterile. So obviously NATO, you have English there as well as the Dutch designation on this. That's nice to have, a useful thing to have again. Right, wrapped up in this bubble wrap. Oh, interesting. So we have toothpaste. Now this looks like it probably dates from the 50s, looking at it. But we have some original, you can get this out of here, Dutch toothpaste. Now Prodent was a popular brand in the Netherlands, so that's very nice to have. I say, probably better for the earlier sort of periods I'm looking at, maybe into the 60s with this style of tube. But that's very nice to have. I imagine not that common to find. So thank you, Kevin. I did ask if you about possibly finding something of this nature. So thank you very much indeed for that. I'll wrap that up again for now and pop that to one side over here. Right, more hygiene items here. We have a comb, presumably a Dutch manufactured comb to go in the hold all. So that's nice to have. A shaving brush. So just a very simple shaving brush there. Could use regular soap, of course, to make a lather or shaving soap. So we'll see what else has arrived in the box, but a shaving brush is an excellent part of that kit to have. We have a bar of soap here, unused in its original packaging, and wrapped up in this plastic bag. Toilet Zeep Met deodorant, so toilet soap with deodorant, of course. This is the nice thing with sort of these languages such as German, Dutch and so forth, that often you can work out what's going on without actually a deep understanding of the language, but that's easy enough to translate. Rexona is the brand, so very nice to have. Excellent part of the small kit there. On that theme, we have another example of soap here, I think in a soap tin, soap dish. So Palmolive in a plastic soap dish, which again is a nice element of the personal items, the small kit, and I think that would probably be quite useful, not just for the Netherlands small kit, but my British small kit from the sort of 80s era as well. A useful thing to have, items like that. I have quite a collection of personal hygiene items for use in hold alls and so forth. A little bit different here, we have what looks like, let's see what we've got. We've got some Blanco, so the Netherlands Army, the Royal Netherlands Army used Blanco, of course, in sort of KG3 colour, similar to the late war British Blanco. So a block of Blanco in the box there. And we have here, so Leder Onderhoudsmiddel. I wonder, something to do with leather, possibly dubbing. Yeah, looking at that, it's somewhat dried up, but I would imagine that's dubbing. Which is obviously a waterproofing compound for leather. And in here there is also, that's quite pungent, the remaining solvent that's in there. And then we also have a can opener, a tin opener as well, which is a very useful piece of small kit to have, of course. We'll put those items back in here for now. And then we have a selection of matches. So we have some match boxes with contents, which is nice, and a matchbook as well, which presumably would have been provided with rations. So again, useful pocket fillers, very nice to have. Another element of the personal hygiene items, a razor here, we can see, and this may have some markings on it somewhere. We do have some markings. Whether I'll be able to get them into focus, I don't know, but this is actually a Gillette product made in England, and there is a date code on there, so I'll be able to look up the date for this. This is a screw opener, screw close design. I've actually been talking about these recently on my main channel, Rifle More Cold War era razors, and this is again useful not only for Dutch kit, but for British kit as well, from sort of the 70s, 80s time period. These were widely exported, they were made in England, but widely exported in Europe, as were later designs as well, as was covered in that video. So a lovely thing to have, excellent item to go in the hold all. Another item I was very keen to get is the pocket knife. A pocket knife here, which is dated 75, as you can see there. So very nice to have, very pleased with this. Thank you, Kevin. You see the main knife blade there. I won't open up all the tools you get in this, but excellent thing to have. Again, an element of the personal items or the smaller kit that was issued. A tin here, which is, given the colour of it, I assume is probably a webbing renovator, a later webbing renovator that replaced Blanco, possibly, in a khaki colour. I'll have to untape this and have a look at some point. But that's my assumption with this. We're getting very near to the end here. The penultimate thing to look at in here is an interesting item, which I just talked about, and then the camera glitched, so we'll come back to it. This is, from what I can make out, a card showing examples of the Soviet military mission number plates used on the vehicles used by the Soviet military mission in BAOR, involved with BAOR, the US Army forces in Europe and the French forces in Europe, the different zones, obviously different occupation zones, originally in Germany. And this is interesting in that it appears to be a reporting card for sightings of these vehicles. So the Soviet military mission, of course, was present in the West by agreement. They were allowed to be there, but they definitely carried out espionage. And my understanding is whenever they were seen, they were to be reported because they were able to travel and roam essentially and observe what was going on. And it was important to know where they'd been and what they'd seen. So I believe this is a reporting card for that purpose. So a very interesting thing. Thank you for putting that in, Kevin. Excellent little bit of Cold War interest there. And we finally have a cleaning kit for the FAL. So from what Kevin was saying is these are very difficult to find. They are very similar to the British cleaning kit, certainly the size of the tin and so forth. But you can see here we have the 17, which is the national code for the Netherlands, and the full NATO stock number across the front there, of course. If we open this up, we have inside several items. So we have a pull-through there. We have an oil bottle and a cleaning brush. And we also have a magazine loading tool. So this would sit on top of the 20-round magazines for the FAL, and you have a charger stripper clip guide here. Put that in, the rounds, the heads of the rounds go in here, and just squeeze them in, basically. So it's a guide that you sit on top of the magazine to allow you to load in rounds. So that was in there as well. So the cleaning kit for the FAL, which really does round out the smaller items, the smaller bits of kit that go to sort of complete a set of equipment and a display. So very nice to have. A big thank you for all of this, Kevin. It really is much appreciated, as I always say, and a major advance in the sort of collection of Dutch bits and pieces, which really just started with web equipment and has now moved on to various smaller items, including the rifle cleaning kit here and all the bits we've looked at in the video, many of which will come up in future videos, no doubt. So hopefully it's been interesting looking at them briefly here, and obviously hopefully they will appear in more detail going forward in the future.
So I hope you found it interesting looking at this. Some excellent additions to the Dutch collection here. Not something I initially sort of set out to collect, but the collection's sort of grown. And obviously this stuff is not particularly expensive, and it complements the webbing equipment and so forth, which I've collected because it's an evolution of 1937 pattern. Sort of I picked it as an example of that to have in the collection, of the post-war influence on continental European armies' equipment. So that's the main reason I initially started collecting the web equipment, and it's sort of grown from there. And obviously Kevin's been a great help in that. Whether I'll end up displaying this stuff and reenacting, I'm not entirely sure, but reenacting Dutch forces, that is. I'd certainly like to at some point, and there's a group in the UK called De Uwerstomp. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly-ish. My apologies if not. I'll put a card to their channel trailer. They have a YouTube channel which is well worth going and having a look at. Some interesting videos on there on Dutch kit, and maybe I could be able to join up with them at some point in the future. Unfortunately, they are based down south and I'm in the northwest, so possibly a meeting of the ways might be at Hack Green in the future, and that will be quite interesting to do if it proved to be a possibility. We will see. But as I say, go and have a look at their channel. Well worth having a look at. A big thank you to Kevin once again. I understand he's also helped them with bits and pieces as well, so you're certainly helping those with an interest in the Dutch military of the Cold War over here, Kevin. Much appreciated. And as I say, I do hope you found it interesting looking at these bits and pieces. If you have and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.